Welcome back. Cairo, Paris, Melbourne is the latest novel by Egyptian novelist Maher Abou. It is three novels in one, set against the backdrop of Middle Eastern wars from 1967 to the developments, the current developments, or the developments in the early 2000s until 2003. Its characters and acute social concerns assume new dimension in light of today's Arab Spring. And joining us this morning in the studio is Mr. Maher Abou, the Egyptian novelist. Tell us more about yourself and your work.
My name is Maher Abou, of course, and novelist. This is my third novel, as I've translated the first English one. But I have 5 novels altogether. That I wrote that 2004, and finally got published in English in Australia, and did very well, and I received it very good point. Happy with that.
Well, the fact that you were living in Australia, now that you have an English book as well, how does that influence you? I mean, living in Australia and being an Egyptian, writing a novel in English, how do you...
I don't write in English, this is translated. I wrote in Arabic. I wrote 5 novels, and it's been sort of long trip for writing. And I've been in Australia for 20 years, and but I always coming back every year 2 times at least to publish a book and to get involved in the market of writing and all that. And actually, when this first published in Arabic, it's received a very good review. Mr. Ragad Nakash wrote about it, predicted I'm a very good writer, and unfortunately, the media didn't follow that. Even Naguib Mahfouz, when I met him once, and he was saying that was a good point, and I asked him about his opinion and things, and he said, after Ragad Nakash said his opinion, what you want me to say? And unfortunately, it's been ignored by media for 5 novels considered as strongest novels, but the corruption was there, with the old regimes. So, but now I'm really very excited because in English it's received such a very good reviews. Australian biggest newspaper wrote about it and said really good things about it. They interviewed me on TV. A couple of people wrote about it in America, and it made me happy in a way. But I felt sad that didn't happen with me in my own country, because that should be the start.
Okay. Mr. Maher Abou, an Egyptian living in Australia writing a novel. Are you talking or writing about stories here in Egypt, in the Arab world, in Australia, in the West, or in Australia? What are your concerns? What do you want to say in your novels?
Traveling, it's sort of, when you are a writer and you like writing, you get affected by where you travel and the people you are around, you are surrounded by, and this is something you can't help it. So, but I'm pure Egyptian, so I take that with me everywhere I go. And to write about 3 cities, that I meant to write about these 3 cities because I looked at the city as a human. They have a fate, destiny, exactly like a human, and they die or they get old. Like specifically, I was talking about Cairo is sort of an old man, and Paris is like a young, beautiful girl, and Melbourne is a child. So I was just, that was my point.
And the characters, your characters?
Yeah, mainly. No, the main character is sort of a trip for going through that 3 sort of cities and follow his dreams. So he born in the city of death. I was writing about the city of death. People live in the cemetery, corruption, and the main character, he didn't accept that. He was a rebel. Even people, he grew up with people with double faces, annoying and corrupted, and he's automatically got corrupted. But he became a rebel of that corrupted. He wanted to dream, to follow his dream, to go to somewhere else. So someone's said to him, Paris is beautiful, everything is wonderful, and it's green, and people nicer, and everything is better. So he dreamed and followed his dream in a comical trip. and comedian one to get there. And when he get there, he discovered that it's not much difference, but it's only a level of change of civilization, that's all. There are crop diversion in France, but in a limited level. Same in Melbourne, which is Australia, less level. So that's the main thing. The main thing in the novel is it's becoming very exhausted for the human being to actually sort of survive these days. It's like you need a Nobel Prize to survive just a normal person in this modern time we live in. Yeah, so.
So what inspired the idea of the novel itself? Were there certain, experiences that you went through that may have inspired the book itself?
Yeah, that's a mix up always been through. It's an inspiring, as I said, is the environment I live in. If I live in Cairo, I'll probably write about Cairo. If I live in Paris, I'll write about Paris, about people I'm around with. But just I have a philosophy on writing is I got an idea, a strong idea. Doesn't matter where I wrote about it. The place is not, that's not important. What I'm looking for is the human being, the human person, and the political effect of, for example, I'm using the wars from 2067 up to 2004. So we've gone through 3 wars. So these 3 wars affect the main characters and the characters that live in, have this effect in the novel themselves.
Okay, so you're talking about the impact of the political developments on the characters and also the social dimensions as well.
Oh, of course, yeah, that's it, yeah. Well, writing, I believe that's have to be shock. And my writing is shocking. Like when you read it, it's like you gotta take attention here. It takes more than a little intellectual to understand that I'm not just writing a tally-fair sort of a story. I'm shocking the society, telling them, here we go, this is what we're facing, and this is what we have to look at ourselves, find out our own freedom in one way or another, and develop ourselves from there.
So when you're talking about social responsibility and politics and all of that, in terms of the revolution, how did this affect your work, the Egyptian revolution itself?
I was here before the revolution. I studied in Egypt for 1 year. I was working with writing and newspaper articles and stuff, and I lived in Egypt. And I was, during the revolution, I was here the 18 days in Tahrir Square and joined the things. Actually, it's very interesting you say that, because all my writing is all about freedom before the revolutions. But facing and fighting for freedom on the ground, it's totally different story from writing about freedom. It's beautiful experience, facing this without fear, to be just in Tahrir Square and amazingly have mix of emotions of fear, where you're gonna get the shock from, or excitement because your friends are around you, excitement of people, and joy because people are still singing while we don't know what's going to happen next moment. So totally in the ground, different story, and beautiful. It's the most amazing experience I ever had in my entire life. Writing is nothing compared to actual being there in the scene and facing this and gas steel bombs and all that. Probably all seen it.
So living in or within this experience during, as you said, the first 18 days of the revolution, of course, it inspired you, or it was a source of inspiration for you as a writer.
Of course, I grew up like as a writer with this experience, but it's also, it's just, it's hard to write about it now because it hasn't been digested yet. It's just you need a time to digest that and to write about it, and especially because what's happening with the revolution, we don't know. It still sort of hasn't come with the consequences we really need to. So it's still going. It's
So
not
the
finished yet.
the experience
It's not a
is not
finished
over
game
yet.
yet.
It's not over yet.
No, it's not over. It's still coming. And it's worried because it's Egypt now. What's going on now is Egypt. It's sort of, we're facing a really dangerous time, especially these days and coming days as well. It's sort of the people who rule the country, they live in a different world, and the actual Egyptian people in the ground, they are in a totally different world. And there is no such a communication between the two. The politicians, they're fighting or they're doing things and have their hidden agenda. And the demand of the Egyptian, normal, ordinary Egyptian people, they sort of, where are we? The revolution didn't do us any good. Come on, we're waiting, but there's no response. And that's really dangerous, because these little things, it can get bigger if the people ruling the country not aware of what's going on. They have to come and communicate with people. Morsi and the Muslim Brotherhood and the Salafi, they have to give us a clear agenda, what they want from us. We don't know yet. We don't know what the hidden agenda is. They want us hijab or niqab, or stop drinking, or stop the tourism. Okay, tell us. You want us to fight with Israel, have a war exactly to straight away? Tell us. You want this? We need to know a big vision. What's going on? Okay. Because the people now is really suffering. The most important thing and the most beautiful thing about Egyptian people, the sense of humor and sarcasm when they have a crisis. And now these people lost it. They don't even make a joke anymore. They disgrace.
No, on
things.
Facebook, you find jokes
Facebook
about
is a different world,
crisis.
but it's a real ground. We're talking about real ground. Okay. It's sort of still people tense, ready to explode.
It's a very critical stage in our history.
Ready to explode and ready to. Life is very expensive for them. Revolution didn't do any good for them. It's become more sort of difficult for them. So we're talking about serious issue here. It's just sort of, if the politician actually not aware of it, they should be aware of it. This is a real strong message. And the old regime followed the same mistake.
Another episode to have you with us to tell us more about your vision regarding the developments here in Egypt. But unfortunately, we are running out of time. Mr.
Okay.
Maher Abou, elsaoud, Egyptian novelist, thank you so much for being with us this morning on Breakfast Show.
No problem, thanks for having me.
This brings us to the end of this morning's edition of Breakfast Show. Thank you for joining us, and don't forget